Good morning to you. This is Off the Shelf, and I am David Batsoffen, and I'm joined by nobody today, unless you want to count the books that I've been reviewing over the course of 2025 as guests. And I thought what I'd do is give you an overview of most of the books that I've looked at during the course of 2025 and had the pleasure of reading and interviewing many of the authors. Starting with this. I've never read Peter James before, and this was suggested to me by Jennifer Crewis Williams, who had been reading it at the time when I interviewed her. And The Hawk is Dead is one of those ripping reads. It really and truly is. I still have my copy. It's published by, he says, looking around madly for the publishers. I think it was Jonathan Ball. Pan Macmillan, sorry, Pan Macmillan. Get yourself a copy of this. It's ripping holiday read. It really and truly is. Peter James seems to be friends with both Queen Camilla and King Charles, and they feature in the book, as do many of the royal household. So if you're looking for something that's a little left of center, if you've never read any of the Grace thrillers before, this is a very good place to start. These are in no particular order, I have to say, the books that I'm reviewing today. They're merely the ones that caught my attention. This is Peter Terry's first novel. It was published by Lone Wolf. Peter and a friend have formed their own publishing company to publish this, and it's being billed. And I'm not going to tell you anything about the book other than it says on the front. Importantly, the statement below is true. The statement above is false. The entire book is fiction. The entire book is also true. Those of you who know and love Peter Terry may wonder, is this an autobiography? He says it isn't. Those who know Peter think it is. You make up your mind and decide for yourselves. Next up, what have we got? This is a book that's very near and dear to my heart. And the reason is that I did my time on the South African railways and harbors. And this book on the railway, it's written by David Williams, it's published by Tafelberg, is the story of his dad, who also worked on the railways and who was also an electrician, except if I remember correctly, because I read the book early in the year. His dad went on to become an electrical engineer, which I didn't. Try as I might, I was unable to pin the author down to an interview. I would love to have chatted to him about his memories, but the book evoked all sorts of memories that I'd forgotten that I had. Whether you worked on the railways or didn't, if you traveled on the railways or you didn't, this is a great read. It brought back memories that I'd forgotten. The cutlery and crockery on the coaches, on the dining coaches, on the trains, fascinated me. And I suppose now's as good a time as any to admit that I too, like many others, tossed one of those horrible horsehair green pillows out of a window when crossing the Vaal for the first time. Did I hit anybody? I seriously don't think so. I don't hope so. But my time on the railways brings back fond memories. Also, my trips I did, the longest trip I did on the railways was Port Elizabeth to Bulawayo back in the day. And that, if I remember correctly, was a 6 or 7 day trip. It was absolutely awesome. And again, one of those reads that if you're at all involved or if the railways played a part in your past, then it's one for you. This next book is of interest. It's called The Bible of Spirit. You are not broken, you are becoming. And if you go to my off-the-shelf website, you can find an interview that I did with the author Ilana Ridge. It's a most interesting book, and it was published by My Book, MYE book. I leave it up to you. There are people who like this, there are people who don't. I fall into the former category. My wife grabbed this book and read it like she was coming off a desert island and hadn't had anything to eat for days, and could easily identify with what was being said in the book. And maybe seeing it's coming up the beginning of 2026, this is a book for you to take, to read, and to think about what you have in store for you in the year ahead. Raising the Bar, Jeremy Pickering. It's published by Staging Post. And I have to say, I've only started this book, but it's made it in by default, if nothing else. I can tell you no more about the book, other than it is an unlikely journey to the High Court bench. And to quote Alison Lowry, it's an eloquent breath of fresh air. So if you're interested in the making of a judge, perhaps you're studying law and you'd like to find out more, you can see there on the front cover a delightful memoir by, also said, Edwin Cameron. This is a book that I wasn't expecting to read. It was handed to me at a game lodge recently by a mentor of mine who said, "Take this. I think you'll enjoy it." It's published by Ride and Die Press, which is an imprint of Melinda Ferguson. And I was lucky enough to interview Peter Venison. The interview is on my YouTube channel. And those of us who thought we knew Sol, perhaps we didn't. Those of you who remember Sol, it's interesting because I was talking to people where they saw me reading the book and they went, "Who is the Sol Kerzner?" Now, if you know, Sol died in 2020, died at the beginning of COVID, unfortunately, at age 84. But the modern youth know nothing about him. And I do believe that people in the current hospitality industry should read this book and see it for what it is. He changed the face of hospitality, not only in South Africa, but in the world. Was he a great man? Yes. Was he a difficult man? Yes. Was he loud? Was he rude? Yes, to all of those things. And Peter will admit to it in the memoir. It's called My Friend and Adversary. And Sol was both of those things. Not an easy man to deal with at the end of the day. I've interviewed Nicole Engelbrecht before. She has written a book that I chatted to her about, I think it was last year. She together with a British author. But Bare Bones, Cold Cases from True Crime South Africa. I don't know what it is. It's published by Jonathan Ball. I don't know what it is with South Africans that love true crime. And I was lucky enough to interview her again. And I mentioned that back in the day when I was growing up in Port Elizabeth, I had an uncle who loved the True Detective magazines. I think they were American. They were badly printed on rubbish paper with really terrible photographs. But people loved them. And as she says to me, people think that this interest in crime is new, but it isn't. It goes way back. I started reading those True Detective magazines back in the late 60s, early 70s. So it's been around for a while. Nicole didn't start out as a crime podcaster. She started out in corporate, but she's now pivoted. And her podcast, go and look for it, is very highly rated. We go from there to another True Detective book, Confess a Cop, the detective who persuaded killers to talk, the life of Captain Johan Morris, as told to Michael Bear. I interviewed Captain, and he's an interesting man. Did he get me to answer any questions? No, but it was interesting talking to him and how he got people to trust him in order to make confessions, because I cannot imagine that being easy. So let's go from the macabre and the dark to totally the other way. This is the new kid on the block, the best of Carlos. This is wild. It's published by Jonathan Ball, and it should be in your Christmas stocking. Not for anybody else, but for yourself. Carlos is a wonderful man. I got to chat to him as well about the book, about his career as a cartoonist, and it was a lot of fun. That too can be found on my YouTube channel. Staying with cartoonists, the one, the only, Zapiro. What else could go wrong? Zapiro is also published, he's published by Chicana Media. And this time of the year, every year, Zapiro brings out an annual. A look back at the cartoons that he's drawn, in this case for the Daily Maverick, in 2025. There will be cartoons that will make you remember. Are cartoons that will make you go, good grief, did we live through that? And there are cartoons that will make you think, how did we get to this position? And taking that one step further is this, Stephen Francis and Rico. And I was able to interview both of them because Stephen Francis was in South Africa for a while. He now lives in the States. And this book too is published by Chicana. And it's just, madam, impossible. This whole series has taken on a life of its own. And you can't, there's not even a love or hate with them. It's all love with this family. It really and truly is. They're getting cleverer and cleverer and more relevant as time goes on. So that's a look at sort of the novels that I read that interested me, the cartoon annuals that brighten my end of the year every year as they have done for the last several years. So let's move on now to my passion, which is wildlife. And I'm going to start with something that I almost always promise myself every year. Published by the Astronomical Society of South Africa, Sky Guide of Southern Africa. We all look up and we all wonder. And then we look down and we don't bother anymore. I have promised myself year after year after year that I would be doing a course that would make me understand what was above me. And for some reason, every year that just gets postponed. Maybe 2026 will be that year. Sappy Tree Spotting, published by Chicana. A big shout out to Chicana. They do a lot of books in the nature part of things, and their books are truly stunning. I always joke with tree spotters, and this is a very specific tree spotting book, the Drakensberg and Eastern Cape Mountains. So if you're going to be in that region, this book is the one that you need to take with you. But I always joke with tree spotters because I always say to them, if you go out trying to spot trees, the trees are going to be there. And then if you go out tomorrow and you look for those trees, they're still going to be there. It's not like that with wildlife or birds. And speaking of which, I found 2 new birding books this year. Chamberlain's Guide to Birding, and I'm just trying to think who it was published by, Firefinch. And I knew nothing about these Chamberlain's Guides. My guidebook my go-to has always been Cecil. But these books were recommended to me by a guide that I was on a drive with. He recommended not only that one, but Fancy's bird book too, fully fledged guide for kids. And I think this is where it needs to start. 4 new countries, 120 extra birds, and bird sounds if you use the QR code. Again, a wonderful edition. I don't know what it is with people involved in wildlife. We always have maybe 2 mammal books and a couple of books on tracks and signs. And then we have a shelf full of bird books. I don't know why. And every time a new bird book comes out, we go, we have to get that one. And this one is no different. Published by BirdLife South Africa and Mapula Trust, Birds on the Brink looks at threatened species and the people who are working to save them. It's a great coffee table book, and it has beautiful photographs and stories in them. And just to let you know that without vultures, our veldt would be scattered with carcasses and rotting flesh. So they do have a place, both them and hyenas. Staying with birds, this little pocket book published by Penguin Random House is eloquent and easily fits in your pocket. These are the birds of Botswana. Staying on things wildlife, this was a fellow that I tried to get to interview, but unfortunately I couldn't. Published by Pelagic Publishing, Walking Safaris of South Africa. He may be on a safari walking somewhere between Cape and Kenya. Now, see, he's interestingly enough, he didn't go Cape to Cairo. He stopped in Kenya. The walking safaris are all beautifully listed, what to take, what to do, how to do it, where to go, where to stay, everything one would need if you're deciding to go on a walking safari on our continent. And from walking safaris to swimming, wild swimming in the Western Cape, 101 regions of the most beautiful swimming spots. This is Rock Hopper Books. Sarai Dowling and her husband Matthew have published this, and it is a book that will make you want to leap into the water. Even like me, if you're not one that wants to swim in cold water, it will make you want to do so. There are pictures in this book that make me want to go down to those spots and just jump in the water in order to put ripples into the image. From there to a tome of a book that has taken Alan Zimler more than 20 years to put together. Paul Holberton Publishing is the publishing house, and it is Impressions of a Desert People. Alan has this passion for that area, for the Kalahari, and he tells the stories impeccably with some wonderful photographs that he's been able to scrounge from diaries of his over the many years that he's been visiting the area. Now, this is a kid's spider book. It's published by the Mapula Trust, Penguin Random House, and it's for kids. And I think it's important that kids learn to love and understand spiders. This is a little jumping spider on the cover, and I was joined by one recently while I was having breakfast at a lodge near Kruger, and the little thing hopped into my cereal bowl. So I sat for about 15, 20 minutes photographing it before I even ate my breakfast, let alone poured cereal into the bowl. And I do believe that children need to learn about spiders so that they're not frightened of them. Not every spider needs to be whacked on the head with a rolled up newspaper. And I think spiders and scorpions, again, get a bit of a bad rep for all the wrong reasons. If you stay clear of them, they'll stay clear of you. Caterpillars, on the other hand, again, by Mapula Trust, coming out of Penguin Random House. Steve Woodall has created this. Again, it's for the young'uns and beautifully illustrated from caterpillar to butterflies and moths. And it gives the kiddies an insight into how those to evolve. Penultimate book, and placed here for no apparent reason other than I like David Bristow and the way he writes. Looney Birds, Lion Men, and the Snake That Was a Gerbil. 20 of the best bush tales from Southern Africa by David Bristow. And I do believe, if I remember what he said during our interview, that this is going to be the final book in the Bush Tales. He's got many others planned, and he's written many more. But this is the last in that series. It's a fun book. Almost want to say it's a great toilet read, because it is. There are lots of stories in there, 20 stories in there. You can go in there, read a half a story, come out, discuss it, go back, finish it, read another one. A great, great read. And well done to David Bristow and the team that put that together. And who published that one? Jacana. And then finally, and I've saved this one for last for a variety of reasons, The Rift, Scar of Africa by Shem Compion, and it's published by HPH Publishing. It is probably one of 3 of the best books I have ever owned. The other 2 being by Angela and Jonathan Scott of Great Cat Diaries. But this book is singularly one of the most stunning. It's taken Shem a long time to put this together, more than 2 decades. The photographs are his, both black and white and color, and the stories, he's I don't want to say put this out to tender, but he's reached out to a variety of experts to say to them, put the story of the rift together for me. The book, when they say coffee table book, this could be the coffee table. Forget it being a book. But it is one of those books that when you, for instance, when I got my review copy, it just looked so glorious that I didn't even unwrap the cellophane for 3 days. I just sat and looked at it. And I was reticent. And in fact, when I interviewed him, I said, people should buy two of these, but they're expensive. Buy two. One, which you just leave wrapped and put away as your legend to your legacy to your children or to family members or to people that you like. And then the other one, you can just, read the hell out of, cut pictures out, and put them in frames and hang them on your wall if you feel like it. But the book is beautiful and it would make an excellent gift for yourself, if for nobody else. So that's what I have lined up for, or what I read during the course of 2025. I hope you've had a good read or a good 2025 reading. I do hope that you found some books that I've shown you that are of interest and that you might look at for 2026, or maybe we've still got a few days left in 2025. Dash out and see. Most of these books, if not all of them, are available at bookstores, as I say, good, bad, and indifferent. The only difference between a good and a bad bookstore is that one will have extra copies, and the indifferent bookstores just don't care. They either have them or they don't. So go and have a look if anything catches your attention. If you'd like to find out more about the authors that I've interviewed, you can visit the Off the Shelf YouTube channel. Just put that into YouTube and that will pop up, or drop me an email and I'll give you information if you wish. My email address, david.batsoffen@gmail.com. To all these people who are watching, to all my viewers during the course of 2025, I wish you a pleasant, merry, happy Christmas, a safe and peaceful end of the year, and a glorious start to 2026. From Off the Shelf, until the next time, I'm David Batsoffen. Bye for now.